And then, of course, what a lot of people don't know about this project is that there was more than just the films. There were things that were done in other channels as a true transmedia project. So one of those were comic books, which were not free. They were sold and did quite well. And just like the movies, they were done by really famous comic book artists and really famous comic book writers, and in a couple cases, B-list celebrities. But they were popular with people, even if they didn't care about BMW, because they liked the fact that artists they already knew were doing this new work. They also, as you can imagine, comic books are a lot cheaper to make than movies are. So this let them tell a lot of additional stories without actually worrying too much about the cost. And then, of course, this is about as prominent as the car ever got. They're not talking about the car. You can sort of see the BMW logo, but it's only about the lifestyle and where they're going. Then beyond the comic books, which, as I said, did pretty well at making money by themselves, there was something even more complex and kind of transmedia, an ARG, like I talked about earlier, actually for Lost, that let people really participate. So in one of the movies, if you were watching really carefully and you paused it at just the right time, you would see this number written on somebody's hand right before they made a call on a cell phone. And what people figured out very quickly was that that was a phone number. And when they called that phone number, they got an answering machine message that told them a code that they should enter at a specific website. And it started this entire process where people were able to go around the web and discover a series of secret websites and games, sort of, that all pretended that this story was real and that the driver was really out there and driving around and getting missions from people and being asked to do things, and it let you find out where he was going to be. It took a lot of forms, not just the web. This was an ad that ran in the New York Times in the car section that said that if you had seen a black two-door BMW with a bullet hole in the driver's door, you should call these phone numbers. And if you did, someone actually picked up and talked to you and asked you to tell them where you saw it and told you where to come meet them for more information. And it led to this really elaborate campaign where they actually made it possible for people to go and meet up with actors who were playing parts in all of these different cities around the United States. And the end result was that if you followed the story long enough, you were led to a secret party in Las Vegas where they actually gave the first people to arrive one of the cars that was being advertised in the entire campaign. And it got an incredible amount of attention. So again, as far as transmedia goes, the BMW Films project really tried to actually build a world, not just tell one story or just focus on this one character. So it's probably important also to talk about results, because this is all very interesting and very exciting and very creative and very artistic, but brands aren't only in the business of making things for the sake of telling good stories. We also have goals that we're trying to meet. So to talk about how this did, after the first season, there were 21 million viewers on the website. After the second season, they had well over 100 million. I don't know, again, if this was the case in Brazil, but there are no statistics from back then on how much people did or didn't pass it to their friends. But as someone who lived through it and wasn't interested in advertising at that point, I can tell you that everybody I knew about them and knew that they were BMW and watched them and found them interesting and didn't feel offended that a car company was asking for them to pay attention to a story that it was telling. So incredible word of mouth and sharing. And more than 1 million people actually ordered and paid for a DVD copy of all of the stories. That's one of the really interesting things for brands about transmedia is in the marketing business, we're so used to thinking of advertising and marketing as something we spend money on so that we can make money off of something else. One of the really interesting things about brands starting to tell stories is that it gives any brand the opportunity to actually start a second business, to be a storyteller and to create content that people are willing to pay money for and care about. And that's something Maurizio is going to talk about more tomorrow, how that actually works. The campaign also inspired people, not many people, but some people to be even more involved. So there's a URL on the bottom corner of the screen here, but what this is fan fiction, if that's a concept everyone's familiar with. People who really liked the story of the driver started writing their own stories about him. They made up their own things, they added in more details to that world, and they shared those all over the internet. Fan fiction is a concept that's also talked a lot about in that book Convergence Culture that I mentioned at the beginning, so if you're interested, there's more of it there. And then kind of as one final point on impact, or why this was successful, it wasn't just fans of the stories who started telling new stories about this. The entire concept became so popular that it turned into a film franchise called The Transporter. And in the first movie, he drove a BMW, and then they realized BMW wasn't going to pay to be included in the movie anymore, and it changed to an Audi. But